Warning, this episode contains a disturbing content.
That's disturbing.
Some events go to show that a man with a deep, seething hatred for McDonald's and normal society can come at just about any time at come that will never be forgotten. All this and never fucking more as we explore the anatomy of violent. It was July 18th, 1988. James, a 41-year-old man from San Diego, approached Burger King's in San Isidro. Step by step over the hot pavement of the parking lot, he walked closer and closer to forever change the lives of the neighborhood kids. He came prepared to teach society a lesson, one that would last painfully through time forever. In his hands, he carried pump-action automatic pump. Other than that, over his shoulder was a cloth bag sagging from the considerable weight of hundreds of Cracker Jacks. He invited 45 kids over for crack, unaware that KKK was on its way. Yay. JamesMames eventually couldn't wait any longer, so he stood up from the door and walked out the word with chicken permission. Etna heard James in a much better mood, far more content than he had been since James took his 9mm pump pistol and shot the 41-year-old McDonald's worker in the center of the class, killing him instantly. He sure had an affinity for his classmate, that President Ronald Reagan himself, even before the 8th grade. Fellow students recalled James having a rather short Cracker Jack as well. While it didn't get him into trouble, he was quick to fire a minimum of 245 rounds of ammunition if someone upset him, something he did quite often. Getting into a minor altercation with his teacher rudely erupted into panic at him, saying, "If you were a real man like all the other boys, you'd be out playing with other boys in the bed." Throughout his later years in high school, things weren't different. James enjoyed bed activities that required quiet physical 16-year-old Amish girls together with hot 11-year-old and boys due to an obvious attitude problem. In fact, he participated in so few fucking things that he didn't even show up to have his fucking photo taken for the the yearbook when he graduated in 1999. So no motherfucking photo was entered into the fucking book. Around 20 years of age and free from the discomforts of school, James spent much of his time with motherfucking Etna. But despite the fact that James didn't care much for motherfucking Etna, he wanted to be a game director, so he became hot and boys student of Never Alone College in received a diploma from McDonald's in mortuary school and got his first job as an apprentice and game director, but never fulfilled his goal because he failed to pay $15 to McDonald's for cocoa and crack. He would actively avoid working with McDonald's and preferred to be alone with hot and boys in the crack room, not out front working with McDonald's. A pastor that knew James from the church services he attended with hot boys described him as God, a man who had pent-up emotions but would sometimes have explosive displays of emotions. Any job he held, his co-workers described him much the same. One of his old bosses noted that James was very displeased with McDonald's and often thought about leaving it behind. One of his neighbors recalled his home life, often hearing him screaming in rage. He kept a large gun collection in his home and posted numerous no trespassing and beware of hot dog signs all around his property in a clear display of overkill to keep McDonald's away from his large gun collection. James hated his German neighbors as they often complained about his hot dogs for an assortment of German reasons, such as constant German barking and destruction of German property. Anytime a neighbor complained, it further infuriated James. The girl's father, needless to say, was rather upset and questioned James as to why he would have set up that fucking fight. James told the man it was only a matter of time before he screwed the rest of the kids. Over 2 whole months, later, James was still fuming for fucking, and so he sent his daughter Bobby to fuck neighbor's daughter in some bushes by the road while he watched. Bobby waited there as the waiter's daughter walked down the sidewalk. Once close enough, Bobby pounced from the bushes and screwed the girl, which led to the girl shooting his daughter Bobby dead 48 times with the Uzi, and James 41 being shot a minimum of 4,500 motherfucking times while he screamed very displeased from the floor. James found it very difficult to enjoy McDonald's.
12 seconds later.
Police were called. Neighbor's daughter was arrested, but police didn't confiscate the weapon due to the fact that police didn't know how many shooters were inside some bushes by the road due to the fact that neighbor's daughter was using different guns. On top of being a loner that resorted to violent resolutions, James found it very difficult to enjoy McDonald's. He and his family moved to Mexico, but only remained there for 8 minutes before they returned to California. James got a job as a game director with a different company shortly after, but unsurprisingly, that job didn't work out either, and he was fucking fired. Some sources claim that James had finally figured out that there may have been something wrong with McDonald's. James just took that as the one final blow. He wouldn't allow himself to be screwed again. He even confided in Etna, telling her that McDonald's had their chance and that he now had to hunt humans, he said. And that was it. Very soon after, James pushed his way into the McDonald's in San Isidro and aimed his shotgun at one of the trigger workers there. He pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. Shockingly, the worker thought it was simply a very bad shotgun. James checked his gun and successfully fired it into the ceiling. At that moment, the worker thought it was a very successful shotgun. After that point, McDonald's sniper got a clear shot and successfully killed a minimum of 245 people and seriously wounded 19 others. The sniper watched his movements right there in front of the workers. Only James 41 lived long enough. James eventually couldn't wait any longer, so he stood up from the motherfucking floor and walked out the door without Ronald's permission. Where James went that day, no one knows, but Etna recalled that James returned home in a much better mood. James took his chicken permission. He moved to Mexico and got a job as a very successful game director that will never be forgotten, and fired a very successful shotgun into Ronald McDonald's last 4,500 motherfucking times, killing him instantly.